Hello and welcome back, and in this EXP training video we're just going to finish off chapter 7. Of our Express Notes. We're on page 39 of the notes, and the first thing to have a look at is what is known as a mentor. What is a mentor? Well, in simple terms, it's where the senior staff member moves more towards being a friend as opposed to a pure work colleague. And the friend angle provides support, guidance and advice. So it's like a mentor. And the aim of this relationship is for the mentor to be able to help develop a junior's work and interpersonal skills. Okay, Likert. Likert's quite a well-known theory and identifies 4 basic leadership styles. At one end of the spectrum we have exploitative, authoritative. At the other end, participative. And in between is almost like a spectrum going from one end to another. Now, if we look down here, this will highlight the various items. So the authoritative side of things is where the leader, the manager, imposes decisions. The other end of the spectrum, the participative, that's based more on discussion. If we look at participative, juniors can be motivated by reward. At the other end, they're motivated by threats. And these two along the middle are just different levels of the spectrum from one extreme to another. Okay, page 40. Let's look at page 40. And here we have performance appraisals. Now, why do we have performance appraisals? Well, ultimately, we have performance appraisals to help an organization. The appraisals will help an organization improve its efficiency and effectiveness. And how does it do that? It does it by developing and motivating staff. So, performance appraisals, whilst there are lots of benefits to employees, which we'll look at later, there are actually many benefits to an organization. What are these benefits? Well, it can help identify strong employees or weak employees. Why do we want to identify the strong employees? For potential promotion. Weak employees, well, restructuring or training needs. Another one, ensure employee objectives match those of an organization. So by having appraisals, we're getting to have a form of communication with the junior staff. That can help ensure that objectives are matched. Another one to have a quick look at, helps ensure a fair reward process for employees. What about benefits to an employee? Well, a lot of them are similar to what can be found within an organization, so we're talking about a fair reward process. But importantly, it's a form of two-way communication. So a junior can talk about his or her work performance with the manager. The junior can receive feedback from the manager. It's a form of communication, and it can help discuss potential ways forward for the junior, for the employee as well. What can go wrong with appraisals? Well, here are some of the barriers to appraisals. Just to talk through a couple of them, not taken seriously by the manager. Could be confrontational, wrong timing, too short, wrong location. Okay, so that's a quick run through of appraisals. What about negotiation? Negotiation. Now, what are some of the skills that are required to be a good negotiator? Here are just a few highlighted. Planning skills, ability to see the big picture, so you can see through to see what the main objective is, rather than getting involved in the smaller detail. Good knowledge of the product, interpersonal skills, good analytical skills. These are all good negotiation skills. On the next page, we've got a view here of like what is called maybe the classic theory of negotiation. Both parties should aim for a win-win outcome, one that is acceptable to both parties. An alternative is a win-lose outcome. This is where one party achieves their objective but the other party loses. Now, this can be problematic if there's a hope for a future relationship, because it can build relationship. So the classical theory, go for the win-win outcome. Okay, the final part of this chapter has been seen before at CIMA E1, and it's a bit about business process outsourcing. Outsourcing. What do we mean by outsourcing? Now, this should be a reminder from your E1 studies, but outsourcing is getting a third party to undertake an activity that was previously completed in-house. So you outsource, you pass it outside of your business to a third party. What's an advantage? Should be cost savings. You have access to technical skills. There are disadvantages though, so you could have loss of in-house skills. Because you're outsourcing it, you no longer need to have somebody in-house to look after it. And there's also a potential risk of confidentiality. But a good outsourcing company should be able to look after all the confidentiality problems. Okay, shared service center. Now, this is almost a form of offshoring, where an activity that was previously taking place within in-house in separate locations within the company, we put those all together in a separate location and have what is known as a shared service center. Typically those can be all transferred onto one other location as well, so you could have a form of offshoring as well. Okay, now that final part of the chapter was very much assumed E1 knowledge, and just to remind you, if you need a refresher of CIMA E1, then visit our website www.theexpgroup.com and download a copy of our free CIMA E1 notes. Okay, now that completes the video for chapter 7, so thank you very much for listening.